Hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome back to White Lines Formula 1. Welcome back to the second podcast on this channel. Today we'll be talking about Test 2 and winter testing, Barcelona testing overall, now that it's actually over since it's Friday right now. But before we kick that off, first of all I have to inform you of the sad passing of John Surtees. He was a Formula 1 world champion, one-time champion, British champion, British driver. He's dubbed by some as the greatest British driver. He's the greatest one-time British champion. Martin Brundle said in the tribute that he's a champion in every single regard. It's an absolute tragedy for the sport. This man was an absolute legend on the track, on and off. In fact, a man who was respected widely throughout the paddock, had countless memories. He's somebody who's going to be in the Hall of Fame for F1 forever. He's immortalised effectively. So it's an absolute tragedy of his passing. So let's kick it off about testing now, and we're starting with Ferrari. Now Ferrari set 956 lap times. Kimi Räikkönen was the fastest of a 118.634 on the super softs. And if you remember back to my first podcast, link in the description, cheeky plug, I mentioned that though Bottas in test 1 was the fastest, Ferrari was only slightly further back on a slower tyre, and if you converted that to the better tyre, he would actually have been a little bit faster, and that really shone through because not only were Ferrari quickest overall, they were quickest on every single tyre compound. Kimi Räikkönen was faster on 3 of those, and Vettel shared the spoils on another one. They were dominant on the final day. At the end, the final results show that actually Ferrari perhaps were the best team out there. So for those people who are wondering if they're the real deal, you know what? I think they've got a case for it now. You know, they're the fastest on the track in every single compound. They had loads and loads of laps under their belt. They didn't seem as bulletproof in terms of reliability as Mercedes. In fact, today, Kimi Räikkönen had a couple of technical difficulties. He stopped on the track. I wouldn't read too much into that. Again, as I said previously, I just think it's a case of they had a couple of niggles, but you know, when it really comes down to racing, they'll probably have most of those things sorted out. In fact, I think Kimi had a spin, or he went off, and that was probably a testing spin, because obviously during testing they're checking the limits of the cars, so they're really pushing, and I think that probably was all it was. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. But the headlines show that Ferrari have really reared their heads. They've really kicked it off now, and some people are making them favourites. Hamilton said that Ferrari seemed to be bluffing. They had more under their belts. They had more sandbagging, effectively, is what they were doing, and it seems like he's right. However, I want to kind of talk about the fact that he did that, but I'll talk about that a little bit later when I talk about Mercedes specifically. But let's go over to McLaren, a slightly less cheery topic, but they were one of the big headlines, but for all the wrong reasons. They only did 425 lap times. Van Dorn was the fastest of a 121.348 on the ultra softs. Alonso said in a press conference, to the media, Sky Sports Media I think it was, that McLaren are ready to win races. McLaren are able to win races, but Honda aren't. That is a clear direct placement of blame on the Honda power unit. And as much as Zak Brown, CEO I believe of McLaren, is saying that they're not in a crisis, as I tweeted out, Zak Brown saying that is kind of like a sailor saying his boat is not out in the sea. It's just not true. It's going against the facts. You're just lying, mate. Sorry, but it's so hard to say that they're not in a crisis. Alonso said to Spanish media that Honda power unit, I think I'm quoting this one, he said that it has no reliability and no power. Those are the two biggest factors of a power unit. If you have no reliability, you're not going to finish a race. And if you have no power, you're not going to finish a race well. That engine needs to be sorted out. And you know what? I think the stress and the pressure on McLaren Honda is absolutely critical. I think they've got some serious problems. In fact, it seems like they've gone backwards. 425 lap times is the lowest of any team. They were the only team to do less than 500 lap times. They were the only team to do less than 450 in fact. In fact, the second lowest amount of lap times by any team was, I think, was 580. That's 150, over 150 more than McLaren. McLaren did the lowest amount of lap times and the second slowest speed of any team. They're in some serious issues right now, and it's as simple as that. They've got to really pull something out of the bag. More specifically, Honda need to pull something out of the bag, and they need to do it fast. The reason why Zak Brown was saying they're not in a crisis is simply because they need to keep shareholders happy. They need to keep the press happy. They need to keep sponsors happy, because otherwise people are just going to desert them. They're going to leave them, and you know what, you can't argue with the facts. They've got to improve the performances, because you know what, they can't escape the fact that they're struggling bad. But on a cheerier note, let's talk about Williams. They did 800? Wow, they did 800 lap times. Massa did the fastest of a 119.420 on the Ultra Softs. 800 lap times is brilliant, because you got to remember in test 1 they only did I think 213, so in test 2 they did almost triple that. They did almost triple they did in test 1. Massa on day 1 of test 2 in fact did 160 lap times, which I actually mentioned in my previous podcast. I just didn't want to go into it too much. That is so fantastic. That's fantastic for the team, for the engineers, and for Massa, because you've got to remember this guy is experienced. He's an old guy. He was actually meant to be retired, and he's come back and he's put in such a he's put a stellar performance. These cars are so much more demanding on your body and your concentration, and to do 160 lap times in one day, that is amazing. It shows how reliable that car is, shows how quick that car is, because actually overall they're the 3rd quickest car out there. Red Bull have to worry about that. They really have to worry about that. And actually Lance Stroll impressed me too. Obviously I'm not his biggest fan, as I mentioned in the last episode, in the previous podcast, but you know what, he didn't stuff the car into the wall this time. He did a solid performance. He wasn't faster than Massa, but that doesn't surprise me in the slightest. But he did a good showing, and even said, I think it was to Crofty on Sky Sports, that the crashes didn't dent his confidence, and that is so crucial. He's a young driver. He's got so much attention on him. He needs to perform. He needs to win that psychological, that mental game, if he's going to do well in the sport. So the fact that he went out there and did a great performance, or a good performance throughout testing 2, is a real credit to him. So well done you, and well done Williams. Well done Williams indeed. Now Mercedes, they did 1,096 lap times. They were the only team to do over 1,000 lap times. It's the most lap times of any team out there. Bottas did the fastest of a 118.310 on the Super Softs. That's very, very good. As always, it's unspectacular in the fact that it's spectacular. We're kind of used to it now. They did a massive amount of laps and masses of speed, but they weren't as fast as Ferrari, and that's the real sticking point. That's a real sticking point. I want to go back to what I said about Hamilton, the way he said that Ferrari were bluffing. They were far quicker than they said. But the thing is, I kind of think that he was kind of bluffing the bluff. He was kind of using Ferrari as a distraction. I don't know, maybe it's just me. Maybe it's, my opinion may be different and completely different to yours. But I think that was actually very strategic. I think that was tactical, to hide away from the fact that Mercedes was actually sandbagging more than they let off. I may be totally wrong. I may be completely wrong, and actually that is a good showing. That is an accurate showing of how fast the teams are, and the fact that maybe Ferrari genuinely is faster. But I just think it's a bit strange that not only did Hamilton say that Ferrari are doing really well, but Bottas said it too. And I just don't think that would be a logical thing to do from a company's point of view, to kind of promote their rivals. Like, why would you do that? So I think we really need to wait till Melbourne to see how fast that Mercedes really is. Obviously, yet again, Bottas did the faster lap times, but it was Hamilton who was doing the race simulations. He did do a pretty quick lap times. He was only slightly slower than Bottas, but I think he probably is a little bit quicker. But hey, that could just be me. That could be me being biased. But obviously it was mainly Hamilton doing the race sims. But it was still nonetheless a good performance by Mercedes overall. Now Red Bull, they did only 684 they did 684 lap times. Verstappen was the fastest of a 119.438 on the Super Softs. Today they did have turbo issues in the afternoon, which really pushed into Verstappen's stint. He didn't get as long as time out there as he would have liked. However, when they did get that technical difficulty out of the way, he did go out and put a couple decent lap times. Overall, he was the 4th fastest person out there, 4th fastest team out there, 5th fastest person, I think I'm right in saying. So a decent lap time, a decent set of laps, decent amount of laps. However, I think they will be a little bit concerned about the fact that they weren't overly reliable. They do need to sort that out. I'm pretty certain it will be sorted out for Melbourne. But they're most likely the 3rd fastest team on the track. I'm pretty certain they're not as fast as Mercedes or Ferrari. I think in fact Ricciardo did say that they're behind Ferrari and Mercedes. Most likely they're going to be 3rd fastest, but Williams could do a couple upsets and go 3rd ahead of them on a couple races. And who knows, maybe overall at the end of the season in the constructors, maybe Williams have the chance of overtaking Red Bull. Because you know what, they did seem scared of them. They definitely were scared of them, particularly on day one when they started seeing how good Williams were doing. So you never know, it's going to be very, very juicy out there. Now Toro Rosso, they only did 584 lap times. Carlos Sainz did the fastest of a 119.837 on the ultra softs for them. That's actually a really impressive lap time, to be honest. A 119.8 by Toro Rosso on that old Ferrari. A stellar performance from them. However, the crucial thing for them is that amount of lap times. I think they were the second lowest lap times. They've got the speed, but they haven't got the reliability, and that is something so crucial. They really need to sort that out, because they have it in them to be a mid-pack rival. They've got a good car. They've got a good power unit. They're getting a lot out of that car, but I think they're stressing it too much. They've got to sort out breakdowns, but who knows? Maybe that was tactics, just finding out the limits of the car. You never know. By Melbourne, that may be sorted out completely. Well, probably not completely, but for the most part. So, you know, in one hand, really good performance. In another hand, quite a few things to think about. A lot of food for thought from Toro Rosso. Now Renault, they did 597 lap times. Hulkenberg did the fastest of a 119.885, again on the ultra softs. It's so important that they had a very trouble-free day today, because on day one of test two they had a lot of issues, and Jolyon Palmer in particular did seem very, very frustrated. So the fact that they had a totally trouble-free day on the final day is a real good sign for them. I think there is more pace to come out of that car, particularly that engine. I think they have got it in them to get a little bit more out of that car. But I'm pretty certain, at least at the end of the day, it will most likely be better than last year, because last year wasn't a very good season for them. I think they will be competitive in those mid-packs, where I think most of the action will be throughout the season. So, you know, there's a couple issues. I think reliability is something they've got to think about. It seems like it's getting there, which is very good for them considering the day they just had. Speed is kind of average, but it's not too bad. They've got some improvements to make, but it's a decent performance from Renault. Force India, they did 785 lap times. Perez was the fastest on a 120.116, again on the ultra softs. They did have a couple of technical issues today and over the past couple of days, and I think today they even broke down just outside the pits and they had to kind of get wheeled back in. Not ideal, but you know, it's not too bad. You know, 785 lap time shows that they are a reliable car. Obviously they've got that Mercedes power unit, so they are going to be reliable in terms of the engine department. You know, they are going to be quick, especially on those straights. But you know, I think they've got more to get out of that car. I think it was kind of underwhelming performance from them, but not too bad, but generally underwhelming. Now moving on to Haas, they did 715 lap times. Magnussen did the fastest for them of a 120.863 on the super softs. Haas broke down twice today, and they shared that title, having two breakdowns in one day with McLaren. You don't want to be associated with McLaren these days, which pains me. Jesus, that's not good. And the concern for them is the fact that it was a recurring issue, and it was a recurring issue that's been coming since last season, which is the braking. That was something that really plagued them last year, and it seems that gremlin is rearing its head again. Both drivers were having those issues of the braking. Those breakdowns speak for themselves. Grosjean even ended up finding himself, you know, swimming in gravel at one stage. You know, really not ideal. And another issue they're having is in the low speed corner. Now they put it down to the warmth of the track. Warmth of the, you know, I mean, they're in Spain, they're in Barcelona, of course it's going to be warm, but the other teams weren't complaining of that issue, so they are seemingly having issues in those low speed corners, so they need to get that sorted, and they probably will do that through chassis development, including tracks like Monaco, Singapore, those tight street circuits. They definitely want to sort out those low speed corners, otherwise they're going to have some real problems. Again, a generally underwhelming performance from them, but 715 laps is commendable though. That is still not bad. So though they did have quite a few issues in the final couple of days, they had decent reliability. So they've got good things and bad things again. So, you know, another mid-pack performance kind of to be expected from them. And finally, Sauber, they did 788 lap times, which is brilliant for them. Excellent did the fastest for them of a 121.670 on the super softs. Lots of running overall, 788 lap times from a team who were really struggling to even get any lap times in at first because they just weren't able to get out there. Is a massive plus for them. It's really important. It's really crucial to have that reliability, which they do have. So I think they have the potential of getting points this season if they can just keep the car reliable. The issue, of course, is the speed. It's not that fast. They're the slowest car out there, so that really is not good at all. But they haven't got that much money. They've got an old engine. That is to be expected. But you know what? I think, you know, on some tracks, I think they'll be okay where engine when raw engine speed is not too much of a factor. Again, that'll be tracks like Monaco, those thin tracks, those tight street circuits, which isn't so power unit orientated, they should be okay. So again, it was a mixed bag for them, kind of to be expected. And that's my overall view of the teams. That's my performances from them. Now I've got a couple, I'm going to actually have to scroll down for this bit. I've got a couple points that four main points that I've highlighted, which I'm taking away from testing overall. So first of all is the cars are much faster, obviously. So that's the main point. We're in this aerodynamic era. You know, take turn 3 last year, they were going through that corner really quick, you know, changing up a gear, but they were having to lift off ever so slightly to make sure the cars weren't understeering around that corner, that sweeping right-hander. But this year, absolutely planted, absolutely flat out around that corner. Beautiful driving, brave driving, kind of painful driving because it's going to be very demanding on the neck. The G-force they'll endure is going to be much higher this year on every single track. So I think that's a good thing. I personally that's great. Because I think the cars need to be more, not dangerous, but they need to be more difficult to drive in terms of demand of the physicality of the driver. I think they need to be in better shape. I think they've been a little bit easy over the past couple of years. If you remember, you know, even like back in 2003, those cars were so twitchy, it was crazy. And back in like the roots of Formula 1, if we even go back to the times of John Surtees, those drivers back then, they were warriors. They're absolute gladiators. The cars were extremely dangerous, and we don't want to go back to being extremely dangerous, but we want to go back to an era where drivers have been really commendable for the shape they're in, as well as their bravery and their raw talent in terms of speed. You know, I think an F1 driver should have all of those if they want to be in that seat. And I think we're slowly moving into that era now that the cars are getting so fast and getting more demanding on the bodies. It was Martin Brundle in fact said that when he was watching, that the drivers just seem so much more confident to plant the cars round the corners to find the limits of grip. They're willing to explore the limits of grip even more because they know how planted those cars really are, and they're willing to push the braking zones as well, and that's really good. However, that does lead into my next point, which is that the cars are faster. Are they more exciting? And that's the big issue with racing, with F1 in particular at the moment, which is it's not that entertaining and exciting, because you always kind of know who's gonna win. And the issue is that because the cars are really fast now, they're far faster. They're much faster this year, but that doesn't mean they're going to be more exciting. They're just kind of be more of a blur when they drive past. So I don't think it's going to translate that well in that regard. However, I think the thing to look forward to is that mid-pack seems like it's going to be more congested, which means there's going to be more racing, more intense racing in the middle of the pack. There's going to be more wheel-to-wheel action. I think even at the very front of the pack, because Mercedes now have some real trouble dealing, well, not trouble, but real competition in Ferrari, so it seems. It looks like we're going to have 4 cars that are battling at the very front for every single win, and that's going to be absolutely fantastic for the sport, because we don't want races where one team is dominating day in, day out. We really do not want to have that, and it seems that we're starting to get to a stage where, so though we're at a stage we're getting the pack which is the very fastest, and then we're getting the set pack which is just the middle people, both of those are expanding on their own. So there's always going to be, hopefully, racing going on all the time during races, and that's what it needs. That's what the sport needs to stay exciting. When the packs are getting so congested, when the cars are always getting so close, wheel-to-wheel action, drivers will get frustrated, they'll get hot-headed, they'll be willing to make and take risks to get ahead of each other. That's where crashes go. That's where crashes come into play. That's where exceptional driving comes into play. I think it was Verstappen when he was in the Toro Rosso, when he went round the outside in Spa. I can't remember exactly what corner, but it was near the end, and it was in sector 3. That drive when he went on the curb and kept going, that was absolutely world-class driving, and I want to see racing like that still, and I want to see that next year, and I think hopefully we will see that, and if we have that excitement, it'll be beautiful for the sport and for the fans. And my final point is, of course, with Ferrari and Mercedes. The question is, who is the favourites throughout this season? I won't put a definite on it, but I think personally it's still Mercedes. Ferrari did seem the best in terms of testing. They were the fastest in all the compounds. However, I think they were still sandbagging, but I don't think they have that much more in them. I think they do have more. I think they have a couple of tenths, but I still think Mercedes sandbagged a lot more than people realise, and I think they were very, very tactical. We will see that in Melbourne, if that's true or not. But I think Mercedes still going to edge them out. As for Red Bull, I think they are in the top 3, but they are solely number 3. Ricardo hinted that he literally said that they're third fastest. They're behind Ferrari and Mercedes, and I think they have to worry about Williams. But that's it from me, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed yourselves. I hope you've enjoyed listening to me ramble again. I've certainly enjoyed rambling. We've got a lot to come from this season. Winter testing is now over. The next podcast I do this style probably will be on the race weekend in a couple of weeks in Melbourne, or well, at home, talking about Melbourne. So I hope you guys are looking forward to that. I certainly am. I think it will be fantastic. There'll be a lot to see, a lot to learn. Obviously my last video, the quality of my video wasn't particularly good. Now that I've got slightly better lighting, I've got a microphone and a better camera to use, hopefully the quality has gone up. How often I'll be able to use equipment like this, of this quality, I can't guarantee, because my brother's done me a massive favour getting me these 2 bits of equipment, which is the camera and the microphone. Lewis Brown has done me a massive favour with that lighting. Check out his channel, link in the description below. I guess that's it from me, guys. Thank you so much for watching yet again. Please like this video if you've enjoyed. Comment below any suggestions, anything you want from me. Obviously in the gap between now and Melbourne, I'll probably do a couple of little discussion videos, maybe a couple of games, like on, well, a couple of games, I mean F1 videos, just a bit of fun, just to keep things a little bit interesting and juicy. Also subscribe if you really enjoy yourself and want to stay up to date every time I upload, and if you could share it, that would be wonderful. Thank you so much again for watching, guys, and I'll see you on the next one. I'm very tired. Hey. Hey. Oh.